The emergency signal reached every corner of the galaxy at the same time. It was not the usual diplomatic message or trade request that species normally sent to each other. This was different. This was a cry for help that carried fear in every digital pulse. High Counselor Zethara of the Galactic Council stood before the great viewing screen in the central command chamber. Her crystalline body glowed with a pale blue light that flickered with worry. Around her, representatives from the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy watched in silence as another star system disappeared from their maps. The Void Swarm had awakened. For millions of years, these dark entities had slept at the edge of known space. Ancient records spoke of them in whispers, calling them the Devourers, the ending of all things. Most species had treated these records as myths and old stories meant to frighten children. Now, they knew the truth was far worse than any story. The swarm did not just destroy planets or stars. It consumed them completely, leaving behind empty space where entire systems once existed. No debris, no trace, nothing at all. It was as if those places had never been. "How many systems have we lost?" asked Prime. Logic Unit 7742, the representative of the Nexus Collective. Its metallic voice carried no emotion, but even the cybernetic beings felt the weight of this disaster. 47 confirmed, replied Zethara. The rate of consumption is increasing. Our best calculations suggest the swarm will reach core worlds within 2 standard cycles. A wave of fear rippled through the chamber. Core worlds meant the home planets of the major species, worlds with billions of lives. The greatest civilizations in the galaxy faced complete extinction. Our fleets cannot stop them, admitted General Vox High of the Luminary Empire. His energy form burned brighter with frustration. We sent our most powerful warships. They were consumed before they could even fire a shot. The Zephyrian scientists had tried next. Their crystal technology was the most advanced in the galaxy. They built massive energy weapons that could crack planets. The swarm absorbed the weapons and grew stronger. The Nexus Collective followed with their perfectly calculated battle strategies and adaptive artificial intelligence. None of it mattered. The swarm consumed everything. "We must contact every species," Zethara said. "Even the smallest civilization might have knowledge we lack. Every mind must work on this problem." "What about the primitives?" asked a voice from the back of the chamber. It was Ambassador Rictar of the Hegemony. "Some new species was recently discovered. They call themselves humans, I think." Many of the assembled beings made sounds of dismissal. Some laughed. The humans were barely spacefaring. They had only just figured out how to travel faster than light. Their technology was crude compared to species that had been exploring space for thousands of years. "They live on a death world," Rictar continued. "Their planet is covered in violent weather, dangerous animals, and toxic elements. Most civilized species would die within hours on such a place." "Deathworlders," muttered Prime Logic Unit 7742. "Their survival instincts might be useful for evacuation procedures." But Zethara was already sending the signal. Every species would receive the same message. The galaxy faced extinction, and any help would be welcome. She did not expect much from the humans, but desperate times called for trying everything. The message traveled across space at incredible speed. It reached the peaceful traders of the gentle current first. They immediately began loading their ships with refugees and fleeing toward the outer rim. The warrior clans of the Red Spear received it next. They gathered their fleets and charged directly at the swarm. Their ships vanished without a trace. Species after species tried to help or simply ran away. The pattern was always the same. Advanced technology failed. Perfect strategies meant nothing. The Void Swarm continued its march toward the heart of the galaxy. Days passed. The Council received messages from hundreds of species. Some offered research data. Others promised refugee ships. Most simply acknowledged the message and wished the galaxy goodbye before fleeing to distant stars. Then something unexpected happened. High Counselor, called Communications Officer Plentix. We are receiving a response from the human homeworld. Zethara turned in surprise. She had almost forgotten about sending the signal to Earth. What do they say? Are they fleeing their system? Plentix checked his readings twice before responding. His voice carried confusion and disbelief. They say they are coming to help. The chamber fell silent. Several beings actually laughed out loud. The humans were coming to help? A species that had barely learned to build proper starships was going to solve a problem that had defeated the greatest minds in the galaxy? How many ships? Asked General Voxhigh with amusement in his glowing form. Approximately 200 vessels, Plentix replied. They call it the Human Expeditionary Force. More laughter echoed through the chamber. 200 primitive ships against an enemy that had consumed entire battle fleets, numbering in the thousands. But Zethara did not laugh. Something about the human response troubled her. Every other species had either offered knowledge or fled in terror. Only the humans had immediately offered direct action. Only they had formed a military response and launched it toward the most dangerous threat the galaxy had ever known. When will they arrive? She asked. 3 days, High Counselor. 3 days. In 3 days, the galaxy would see what Deathworlders could do when faced with the impossible. Zethara found herself curious despite the situation. The humans had survived on a world that would kill most other species. Perhaps they saw challenges differently than civilized beings. As she watched another star system vanish from the display, Zethara made a decision that would surprise her later. She would give the humans a chance to prove themselves. After all, every other solution had failed. The Void Swarm continued its advance, unaware that something new was coming to face it. Something that had learned to survive on a world of constant danger. Something that did not know the meaning of surrender. The Deathworlders were coming. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Galactic Council's fortress system. High Counselor Zethara watched the display screens as 200 human ships appeared in formation. They looked nothing like proper warships. Where Council vessels were sleek and perfect, human ships seemed rough and practical. They had strange angles and extra parts bolted onto their hulls. Many showed signs of repair work and modification. To the advanced aliens watching, they looked like flying scrap metal. "This is Captain Min-Jun Park, of the Earth Defense Force," came a voice over the communication channels. "We received your distress signal. We are here to help." Zethara activated her translation matrix and responded. "Captain Park, this is High Counselor Zethara. We appreciate your response, but I must warn you. This threat has destroyed fleets far more advanced than yours." "We understand the danger," Park replied. "That's why we came." The human captain's words confused many of the council members. Advanced species came despite the danger. Only humans came because of it. Park's ship, identified as the UES Harmony, approached the council station. It was larger than the other human vessels, but still looked crude compared to alien technology. The hull was covered in sensor arrays, weapon systems, and devices the aliens could not identify. "Permission to dock, High Counselor. We'd like to meet with you in person." Several council members immediately protested. Allowing unknown aliens aboard their most secure facility was dangerous. But Zethara was curious about these Deathworlders. She granted permission. An hour later, Captain Min-Jun Park walked into the council chambers followed by 3 other humans. The aliens stared in fascination. They had seen human images but never met them in person. Park was a middle-aged human with dark hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform with no fancy decorations. Beside him walked Dr. Sarah Chen, a small human with quick movements and intelligent expressions. Commander Kwame Osei was tall and moved like a predator, his dark skin showing scars from what must have been battles. The last human was Engineer Yuki Tanaka, a young woman who kept looking around at the alien technology with obvious excitement. "Thank you for allowing us aboard," Park said with a slight bow. "We know our technology seems primitive to you, but we have something else to offer." "And what might that be?" asked General Voxhai. His energy form burned with skeptical light. "Experience with impossible situations," Dr. Chen answered. "Our planet taught us to survive things that should kill us. We learned to find solutions when there shouldn't be any." Prime Logic Unit 7742 processed this statement. "Define impossible situations." Commander Osei stepped forward. "Natural disasters that can level cities in minutes. Predators that hunt us for food. Diseases that spread faster than we can cure them. Climate changes that make entire regions uninhabitable. We survived all of it." The aliens exchanged uncertain looks. Most civilized species had eliminated such problems millions of years ago. They lived on perfectly controlled worlds, where nothing dangerous ever happened. "Our scans show you have no shield technology," observed Ambassador Rikhtar. Engineer Tanaka grinned, showing her teeth. Many aliens stepped back. Humans showing teeth was apparently threatening. "We build them tough and fix them fast. If something breaks, we make it work anyway. If it breaks again, we improve it." "Your approach lacks efficiency," stated Prime Logic Unit 7742. "Maybe," Park agreed, "but it works. And right now, efficient solutions are not working against this swarm." High Counselor Zeth Ara studied the human captain. There was something in his manner that reminded her of ancient stories. Tales of heroes who faced dark forces with nothing but courage and determination. "What do you propose, Captain Park?" "Let us gather intelligence. Send us to study this. Swarm up close. Your advanced ships get consumed because they follow predictable patterns. Our ships are unpredictable because we build them differently every time." The council chamber erupted in protests. Several beings spoke at once about the foolishness of sending primitives to their deaths. But Zethara raised her hand for silence. "The swarm is consuming our finest vessels before they can even collect data," she said slowly. "Perhaps a different approach is worth trying." "You cannot be serious," General Voxhai protested. "These primitives will be destroyed instantly." Captain Park turned to face the energy being. "General, with respect, your finest vessels have already been destroyed instantly. What do you have to lose by letting us try?" Dr. Chen stepped forward with a datapad. "We studied your records of swarm encounters. Every ship that approached used the same basic design principles. Perfect shields, perfect weapons, perfect targeting systems. The swarm learned to counter perfection." "What do you suggest instead?" asked Zethara. "Imperfection," Engineer Tanaka said with another frightening grin. "Randomness. Systems that work in ways they should not. Ships that do not behave like ships should behave." Commander Osei added his thoughts. "On Earth, the survivors are not the strongest or smartest. They are the most adaptable. They are the ones who change their tactics when the old ways stop working." Prime Logic Unit 7742 ran calculations. "Your probability of survival approaches 0. "Probably," Park agreed. "But 0 is what everyone else achieved. We might do better." The debate continued for hours. Most council members thought the idea was insane. A few wondered if desperation had finally driven them all to madness. But as they argued, another star system disappeared from their maps. Finally, Zethara made her decision. "Captain Park, you and your fleet are authorized to approach the swarm. Gather what intelligence you can. If you survive, report back immediately." Park nodded. "Thank you, High Counselor. We will not disappoint you." As the humans prepared to leave, Dr. Chen turned back to the assembled aliens. "There is something you should know about us. On Earth, when faced with extinction, We do not calculate odds. We do not seek perfect solutions. We simply refuse to give up. The humans left the chamber, returning to their crude ships and impossible mission. Zethara watched them go and found herself hoping against all logic that Deathworld's stubbornness might succeed where galactic intelligence had failed. In 3 days, they would have their answer. The human fleet set course for the nearest swarm incursion site, flying directly towards certain death with what could only be called enthusiasm. The galaxy held its breath and waited. The Kepler system had been beautiful once. 7 planets orbited a yellow star, with 3 worlds supporting advanced civilizations. Now only empty space remained where those worlds used to be. The void swarm moved through the system like living darkness, consuming everything in its path. Captain Park watched the sensor readings from his command chair aboard the UES Harmony. His human fleet had arrived at the edge of the system 2 hours ago. Every alien ship that had approached this area had been destroyed within minutes. The humans had been here for 2 hours and were still alive. Swarm entities are definitely noticing us, reported Dr. Chen from her science station. But they are not attacking immediately like they did with Council ships. The swarm looked like a cloud of living shadow dotted with strange lights. It moved in patterns that made no sense to normal physics. Sometimes it was solid. Sometimes it flowed like liquid. Sometimes it seemed to exist in several places at once. "Why are we still here?" asked Commander Osei. He studied the tactical displays with a frown. Every simulation said we should be dead by now. Engineer Tanaka looked up from her control panel. "Maybe because we are not doing what they expect. Look at our movement pattern compared to the Council ships." She put the data on the main screen. The destroyed alien vessels had approached in perfect formations, using calculated flight paths and standard tactical maneuvers. The human ships moved like a school of fish, constantly changing direction and speed for no apparent reason. "Our ships do not fly like military vessels," Park observed. "We are too random, too unpredictable." Dr. Chen nodded excitedly. The swarm learned to counter organized military tactics. But we are not organized. Every ship is flying differently, because every captain is making their own decisions. The human fleet had no unified command structure like alien forces. Each ship captain was free to adapt and change based on what they saw. Some ships moved in wide circles. Others flew in straight lines until something felt wrong, then changed direction instantly. A few were actually flying backward. "Captain," called Lieutenant Kim from communications. "The Soul is requesting permission to try something crazy." Park smiled. On Earth, trying something crazy was often the best way to solve an impossible problem. "Tell Captain Zhang he is cleared for whatever he has in mind." The UES Soul broke away from the main formation and flew directly toward a cluster of swarm entities. Every human watched their screens as the ship approached certain destruction. But instead of being consumed, something strange happened. The swarm entities paused. They surrounded the Soul like curious animals examining something new. The ship kept moving in random patterns, never staying still long enough for the entities to lock onto it. "They are confused," Dr. Chen whispered in amazement. "The swarm does not know how to process our behavior." Commander Osei leaned forward. "Can we get closer? Start collecting real data?" Park nodded to the fleet. "All ships, begin Phase 2. Close to scanning range. But keep moving. Do not let them predict your next move." The human ships spread out across the system, each following its own path toward the swarm. The entities reacted differently to each vessel. Some ignored the humans completely. Others followed them like curious pets. A few seemed to be trying to communicate. "I am getting readings you will not believe," Dr. Chen announced. Her voice carried excitement and horror in equal measure. "Captain, these things are not just destroying matter. They are unmaking it, breaking down the basic structure of reality itself." She transferred her data to the main display. The readings showed energy signatures unlike anything in known science. The swarm entities were somehow reaching into the quantum level of existence and erasing the fundamental forces that held atoms together. How is that possible? Asked Engineer Tanaka. It should not be, Chen replied. But that is not the strangest part. Look at this energy pattern. She highlighted a section of the data. Hidden within the chaotic swarm signals was something else. A pattern, a rhythm. Almost like, is that a heartbeat? Park asked. More like brainwaves, Chen said quietly. Captain, I think these entities are not just destroying things. I think they are in pain. The revelation hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. The greatest threat in galactic history might not be an enemy at all. It might be a victim. Commander Osei studied the new data. If they are in pain, what is causing it? And why are they destroying everything? Dr. Chen worked frantically at her station, analyzing the quantum signatures and energy patterns. I need to get closer. I need direct readings from the entities themselves. Absolutely not, Park said firmly. Every ship that made direct contact was consumed instantly. But Captain, we are different. They have not attacked us because we behave differently. Maybe we can make contact differently too. Park considered the idea. It was insane. But everything about this mission was insane. What do you have in mind? Chen turned to face him. Let me take a shuttle. Alone. No weapons, no shields, nothing threatening. Just scientific equipment and someone who wants to understand, not destroy. The bridge fell silent. What Dr. Chen was proposing was suicide. But she might also be proposing the key to saving the galaxy. The entities seem curious about us. She continued. They have not attacked because we are not what they expect. Maybe if I approach them as a scientist instead of a soldier, they will respond differently. Park looked at his crew. Engineer Tanaka was nodding slowly. Commander Osei looked troubled, but thoughtful. These were good people who had volunteered for an impossible mission. They understood the stakes. If you do this, you go in prepared for anything. Park decided. Full environmental suit, emergency beacon, and a data recorder that transmits everything in real time. Dr. Chen smiled. Thank you, Captain. I think this might be our only chance to understand what we are really facing. As she prepared her shuttle, the human fleet continued its strange dance with the void swarm. The entities followed them with what seemed like curiosity rather than hunger. For the first time since the crisis began, someone was gathering actual data about the swarm instead of just being destroyed by it. Park watched Dr. Chen's shuttle launch toward the nearest cluster of entities. She was either about to make the greatest scientific discovery in galactic history or become the latest victim of an unstoppable force. Either way, the humans had already achieved something impossible. They had survived long enough to learn that the void swarm might not be what everyone thought it was. The truth, as they were about to discover, was far more complicated and tragic than anyone imagined. Dr. Sarah Chen's shuttle moved slowly toward the cluster of void swarm entities. Her hands were steady on the controls, but her heart raced with fear and excitement. Every sensor was recording. Every instrument was transmitting data back to the human fleet. The swarm entities noticed her approach immediately. Instead of the instant destruction that had claimed alien vessels, something different happened. The dark forms moved closer, surrounding her shuttle like deep-sea creatures examining a strange light. Contact in 30 seconds, Chen reported over the communication channel. The entities are definitely aware of me, but they are not attacking. Captain Park's voice came back tense with worry. Any sign of the energy discharge that destroyed the Council ships? Nothing. They seem curious. Chen checked her readings again. Captain, these quantum signatures are unlike anything we have ever seen. The entities are not just using unknown technology. They are existing in multiple dimensions at once. The shuttle entered the cloud of swarm entities. Chen felt a strange, tingling sensation, as if the air itself was alive and watching her. The darkness outside her windows was not empty space, but something that moved and thought and felt. Suddenly, images flooded her mind. She saw a galaxy full of green worlds and blue skies. Beings of pure energy tended gardens of living light that stretched across entire star systems. They were ancient beyond imagination, wise and gentle, devoted to nurturing life wherever it could grow. They called themselves the gardeners. For millions of years, they had traveled the galaxy, planting the seeds of life on barren worlds, guiding evolution, protecting young civilizations from cosmic disasters. Every species that had ever reached for the stars owed their existence to the gardeners' patient work. But something had gone wrong. Chen saw the disaster that had changed everything. A cosmic anomaly, a tear in space itself, had appeared at the edge of the galaxy. The gardeners had gone to investigate, trying to prevent it from spreading. When they made contact with the anomaly, it had infected them with something terrible. The infection did not destroy the gardeners. It twisted them. It filled their minds with endless hunger and turned their gift for nurturing life into a compulsion to consume it. They became trapped in their own corrupted forms, aware of what they were doing but unable to stop. "Oh no," Chen whispered. "Captain, they are not invaders. They are the galaxy's creators. Something infected them. They are trying to destroy everything they once loved because they cannot control themselves anymore." The images kept coming. Chen saw the gardeners fighting against their own corruption, trying to retreat to the empty spaces between galaxies where they could not harm anyone. But the infection was too strong. It drove them back toward the worlds they had once protected, forcing them to consume the very life they had spent eons nurturing. "Chen, get out of there now," Park's voice crackled over the radio. "The entities are moving differently. Something is changing." But Chen could not leave. The communication was becoming clearer. The gardeners were trying to tell her something important. In the brief moments when their original consciousness broke through the corruption, they were sending a message. The infection had a source. The cosmic anomaly still existed at the edge of the galaxy, growing stronger as it fed on the gardener's pain. If someone could reach it and find a way to heal the damage, the gardeners might be restored to their original nature. But the message came with a terrible warning. The anomaly was not natural. It had been created by something else. Something that wanted to see the galaxy consumed by endless hunger. The true enemy was still out there, watching and waiting. "Captain," Chen transmitted urgently, "we can save them. The gardeners want to be saved. But we need to reach the source of the corruption. Explain quickly. You have maybe minutes before we have to extract you." Chen struggled to put the cosmic visions into words. The anomaly that infected them is still active. It is like a wound in space that keeps bleeding poison. If we can heal the wound, we can free the gardeners from the corruption. How do we heal a wound in space itself? I do not know yet. But the gardeners are trying to show me. They have been fighting this infection for thousands of years. They know its weaknesses. More images flowed through Chen's mind. She saw possible solutions that required technology the humans did not possess. But she also saw something else. The corruption was not just a cosmic force. It was partly psychological. The gardeners' guilt and horror at their own actions was feeding the infection, making it stronger. "Captain, the corruption feeds on despair. The gardeners hate what they have become. That hatred is part of what keeps them trapped. They need to forgive themselves before they can be healed. How do we help billion-year-old cosmic entities forgive themselves?" Chen felt the answer forming in her mind. It came not from the gardeners but from her own human experience. We show them that their victims understand and forgive them. We prove that life still values what they once gave to the galaxy. The shuttle was suddenly surrounded by more entities. Chen realized that word was spreading through the swarm. More gardeners were fighting through the corruption to communicate with her. They were desperate to tell their story to someone who might understand. "Chen, your readings are off the charts. Whatever is happening, it is affecting the entire swarm." She could feel it too. A change was spreading through the entities around her. For brief moments, the corruption weakened, and their true nature shone through. They were not monsters. They were gardeners who had been forced to destroy their own garden. But the relief was temporary. The corruption surged back, stronger than before. The entities began to pull away from her shuttle, their forms becoming more chaotic and dangerous. They cannot maintain the connection, Chen reported. The infection is fighting back. I need to return with this information. As her shuttle retreated from the swarm, Chen felt the gardener's desperate hope following her. For the first time in thousands of years, someone knew their true story. Someone understood their pain. Now the question was whether the galaxy would choose to heal its creators or simply destroy them. Chen looked at her data recordings and realized she held the key to the greatest act of compassion in galactic history. The Void Swarm was not humanity's enemy. It was their patient, waiting to be cured. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from every major species crowded into the chamber, their voices creating a chaos of debate and disbelief. At the center of it all, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the assembly, her simple human form dwarfed by the advanced beings around her. "You expect us to believe," said Prime Logic Unit 7742, "that the greatest threat in galactic history is actually our creator species, corrupted by an external force?" "That is exactly what I am saying," Chen replied calmly. "The evidence is clear. The Void Swarm entities are the gardeners, the ancient beings who seeded life throughout the galaxy. They have been infected by something that forces them to destroy what they once protected." High Counselor Zethara studied the data Chen had brought back. The quantum signatures were indeed unlike anything they had seen before. More importantly, they showed patterns of consciousness that seemed to be fighting against itself. "Even if this is true," said General Vox High, "what difference does it make? They are still destroying everything. Infected or not, they must be stopped." Captain Park stepped forward from where he had been standing with his crew. "General, we think there might be another way. Doctor, Chen's contact with the entities suggests they can be healed rather than destroyed." The chamber erupted in protests. Dozens of beings spoke at once, their voices expressing everything from outrage to desperate hope. The idea of healing the swarm seemed impossible to most, but a few species began to consider the implications. "How?" demanded Ambassador Rikhtar. "How do you heal cosmic entities that have been corrupted for thousands of years?" Engineer Tanaka activated a holographic display showing the data from Chen's encounter. The corruption has two components. There is the original anomaly that infected them, and there is the psychological damage caused by their guilt and self-hatred. "We can address the psychological component," Commander Osei added. "The gardeners need to know that the galaxy they helped create does not hate them for what they have become." Prime Logic Unit 7742 processed this information. "You are suggesting a form of therapy for cosmic entities." "Exactly," Chen said. "But it requires someone to make direct contact with their collective consciousness. Someone who can survive the experience and communicate forgiveness on behalf of all galactic life." The chamber fell silent. Every being present understood what that meant. Direct contact with the swarm's consciousness would likely be fatal. It required someone willing to sacrifice themselves for the possibility of saving everyone else. "I will do it," Captain Park said quietly. The words carried absolute certainty. Park had already decided. His crew nodded their support, though fear was clear in their eyes. "Captain," Zethara said gently, "you do not understand what you are offering. Mental contact with corrupted cosmic entities would destroy your mind instantly." Park smiled, showing the expression that had frightened so many aliens. "High Counselor, I come from a world where survival means facing things that should destroy you. We learned long ago that sometimes the only way forward is through the impossible. Dr. Chen stepped beside her captain. The gardeners responded to me because I approached them with scientific curiosity instead of military force. They might respond to Captain Park because he approaches them with acceptance instead of judgment. This is madness, General Vox High protested. We should be building weapons to destroy the swarm, not attempting to communicate with it. Your weapons already failed, Commander Osei pointed out. Every advanced species tried force. None of it worked. Maybe it is time to try something different. Endegreen. High Counselor Zeth Ara found herself facing an impossible decision. Allow the humans to attempt their insane plan, or continue with strategies that had already proven useless. As she considered the options, another star system disappeared from the galaxy's maps. Captain Park, she said finally, if you are determined to do this, what do you need from us? A ship capable of reaching the cosmic anomaly at the galaxy's edge. The source of the corruption must be addressed directly, while I make mental contact with the gardener's collective consciousness. Engineer Tanaka stepped forward. We can modify our ship systems to create a quantum resonance field. It will amplify Captain Park's consciousness and allow him to reach the entire swarm network at once. The process will likely kill him, Chen added quietly. But if it works, the gardeners might remember their original purpose long enough to heal themselves. The debate continued for hours, but eventually desperation won over caution. The council authorized the human plan, partly because it was their only hope, and partly because they had no other ideas. 3 days later, Captain Park sat in a modified chamber aboard the UES Harmony as the ship approached the cosmic anomaly. Around him, quantum field generators hummed with energy that would either save the galaxy or kill him instantly. Remember, Dr. Chen said through the intercom, do not try to fight the corruption. Accept it, understand it, and show the gardeners that forgiveness is possible. Park closed his eyes and activated the resonance field. Immediately, his consciousness expanded beyond anything a human mind was designed to handle. He felt the pain of billions of corrupted entities, their endless hunger and self-hatred washing over him like a tide of despair. But Park did not try to resist. Instead, he opened his mind completely and shared his own memories. He showed the gardeners images of Earth, of life struggling and surviving in impossible conditions. He shared the story of humanity, a species that had made terrible mistakes but learned to forgive itself and grow stronger. The response was overwhelming. The gardener's consciousness embraced Park's mind, desperate for the understanding and acceptance he offered. For the first time in millennia, they felt something other than hunger and guilt. Park felt himself dying as his human brain tried to process cosmic-level consciousness. But before the darkness took him, he managed to send one final message to the gardeners. You are forgiven. The galaxy knows what you gave us. We choose to remember your gift, not your pain. Across the galaxy, the void swarm stopped moving. The entities that had consumed star systems for years suddenly became still. Then, slowly, they began to change. The corruption that had twisted them for so long started to fade. Dark forms became beings of light once again. The gardeners remembered their purpose, their joy in nurturing life, their love for the young species they had helped to grow. In the space where Captain Park's body should have been, something new appeared. His consciousness had merged with the gardener's network, becoming a bridge between humanity and the cosmic forces that shaped the galaxy. He was no longer human, but he was still himself. The cosmic anomaly at the galaxy's edge sealed itself as the healed gardeners worked together to repair the damage. Systems that had been consumed began to reappear as the gardeners restored them from quantum memory. When it was over, the galaxy was not just saved, it was renewed. The gardeners returned to their ancient work. But now, they had partners. Humanity had shown them that even the worst corruption could be healed with understanding and forgiveness. High Counselor Zeth-Ara stood in her chamber, watching as star systems reappeared on the galactic map. The Deathworlders had done the impossible, once again. They had saved the galaxy not through superior technology or perfect strategy, but through the simple human belief that everyone deserved a second chance. In the end, when the galaxy needed heroes, the Deathworlders had answered, and their answer had been exactly what the universe needed to hear.